What's going on, guys? T2RX6 here, back for another third-party review, and today we're taking a look at the DX9 Gewalt. It's Blitzwing. That's all that's really important here. And before we go any further, big shout out to my buddy Robert D, who let me check this out. He gets his hands on a lot of different things, and is really kind to send them my way to check out, so I don't have to pick them up. So yeah, this is Blitzwing. He's a big beefy tank. I can say I don't know if he's necessarily the cleanest of the Blitzwing tanks we've seen. I think the Ditka from KFC looks a little bit nicer in tank, but it's really not that bad. This is the worst part of it, right down here, this cockpit and head. You can have this cockpit down in the head here, but then you see the yellow sticking out that way, which I don't care for. I prefer from the top view just not to see his head. No working treads, as you would imagine, but it does have the little wheels. Decent detailing. There's not a whole ton of paint I see. Like, you got some of these vents painted. You got the lights painted, the little red and silver here. Not a ton of paint. It would have been cool if they had some more paint on these treads here. Really, like, bring out these wheels here. As it stands, I guess it's probably something that if you took a little, like a brown dry brush to kind of make it look a little rusty and stuff on the treads here, I think you could get some pretty cool results. The turret here does not turn a full 360. I think it's about 75 degrees total, I would say. Yeah, and that's because it's basically each half of this turret here is on like half the leg. So it only turns so far before it seems to get caught up on this piece. But that's okay. It gets enough of the range that I think it's more than capable of doing what it needs to. He also comes with a couple accessories. We got the sword here, and the sword does have these little pegs on it, so you could peg them right into here if you want to. I've never been someone who enjoys pegging weapons just needlessly onto the vehicle. Nothing on the side, which I think would have made more sense if there was a peg hole there. And this gun, and the gun just has absolutely nothing to peg it in as far as I see. The instructions don't tell anything about it. No place on here to store weapons. One thing I really wish, and I know with a plane you can kind of get away with it, you hang it underneath the wing. Tank's a little harder, but there's a decent amount of space here that I feel like we could have integrated the weapon like into the back during the transformation or something, just so it's not hanging out here. They've also got this DX9 tool. It does have a little handle here, which I guess you could, grip if you want, but it's a nice little tool because it gives you a little, like, hook to kind of grab things and pull on them. And then this, like, little wedge to, we don't really need it for this, but, like, if we did, you could kind of slide it under there to push things out of the way. Most of this stuff with this transformation, though, I haven't seen anything that this is really necessary, but it's a cool thing to include nonetheless. So the last thing to do before we take him to his jet mode is to bring in one of the MP cars. Here's exhaust. You can see he's huge. I mean, look just how much bigger he is as a tank. And that's awesome. I love that. I think that's a great size scale for him. Now, the only thing I could say with this ugliness here is it would be nice if there was some kind of panel that they had under here that maybe would flip out and just kind of give a little extra coverage down here. Doesn't even, in my opinion, need to flip all the way down. Just kind of maybe meet this far down on the tank with a panel that went across just to better hide things. Because really, from this angle where you're looking at it, like it's on a shelf or something, this is real ugly. That looks fine. No complaints there. So let's get him to his jet mode, and we're going to go from tank to jet to robot, and then if we have time we'll go back to tank. I'm not going to go how to get back to each mode. I think that's kind of a waste of time. But we'll start by taking this off, and we will open his wings out here. The next thing to do, we're going to disconnect these tank treads here, which are clipped in on the front on both sides here. There we go. Extend these out, and this one side is real stiff compared to the other. Watch, just real. Okay, they're both stiff right now. I don't know what's going on. One of them was looser than the other before. But once we have that, we're gonna fold these back in and they're gonna kind of peg in together, this peg going into that hole there, just like so. Now we can disconnect the top here, so we loosen those clips, and then this whole piece is going to flip all the way down, and let's get these things out of the way. One thing that's interesting about this transformation is they've added these little wings here, which are not present on the instruction manual at all. So it's a little bit strange because you're never really quite clear with exactly what you're supposed to do with these wings. Especially, you know, for robot mode, it's real bad. But anyway, once we have this, we can bring this all the way down and around, just like so. And he's so big, I'm trying to figure out the best way to show you guys. Take this, kind of flip it up and out of the way. This is gonna let all this stuff come down. And the tank turret is kind of holding us up here. I'm trying to show you guys the best way I can what's going on here. Unfortunately, a lot of stuff is kind of in the way, but we're trying to get this closed here, and it just needs to line up properly, and like right here you want to push and it should clip. So once you got that, we can bring, well, let's not bring that down, let's leave it like this. Let's just get back to what we're doing here. I find it's difficult to mess around with these wing bits when everything else is moving, so try to get them in their final position early. And this is just how I like to do it with the like angled fins. You can have them straight up if you prefer. I mean, if you really, you could bend them, whatever you want to do. To me, it just feels like it makes the most sense for a jet to look like that. Bring this down, and we can plug these in. Come to these top pieces. These slide all the way in. Take these, rotate them around so the purple side is exposed. And I think we have to go. Oh, look, we need the tool. You have to actually go backwards into there, otherwise it will end up getting stuck. So now we'll go take these and we'll bring these forward, which now let us flip these things up, which will let us flip these things up. We're going to take the head and bring it right back to where it's supposed to be, like this. Open up this piece here. This should flip all the way around, and in the process you can close these tabs right here. Just close them down, and they don't really sit in there all that nicely. I guess you actually have to put them in and move the head out of the way, just like that. They don't sit there nicely. They really could go down further, and I don't know if it's the way that this is cast or that the peg is cast. One of the two is not cast right, and it does make problems. We can bring these landing gear down too. And I am trying super hard to keep this all on camera. It is difficult. Bring this landing gear down here. We can bring this forward, close the nose cone, like so. Now's a good time to rotate this around, flip this, and then keep rotating this piece down, like so. And you can see we've made the whole cockpit. Once you have that, before you put Blitzwing, before you put his head all the way down there, close this little flap, and then that clips in and holds it in place. So now we're going to try to get these, and these can be a little complicated. You kind of start them like this, And then this whole purple piece is going to flip in, and you want to have the arms kind of like this, and then they should, with this stuff out of the way, flip down, and you want the black piece of the hinge to flip down, not the gray piece. And then open up this little piece here if it closed on you, and close that. So let me see if I can try to show you that again. Bring this down like this, flip the black piece in like so, bring this so it kind of sits on top of each other like a block, flip the purple piece around, and then see the black piece moving here, not the silver, the black, and just make sure you get all this back stuff out of the way as you bring that down. And that should have still been open. It's not till robot mode that we actually close that flap, but just something to be aware of. So once you have that, now we can take this piece and I thought it went down this way, but it doesn't seem to be locking in. Maybe I'm just caught on the hands here. There we go. Oh, lost it again. There we go. And then with this in place, you can now take these things and they tab in to the sides here. So you kind of bring them around and tab them in place. So as I was taking pictures of this guy in his jet mode, I'm like, something doesn't feel right. There was this weird gap here. And I went back and I was looking at it and I realized that I had transformed these the wrong way. I put the like panel side out. It should be the screw side down, and that actually alleviates all the little gap problems and kind of the weird look that the airplane has going on. So my apologies there. Just make sure you have the screws down when you do that arm transformation part and it'll be right. But anyway, this is the jet mode. It is pretty impressively big. It's got a super weak landing gear. It would be nice if this clicked in somehow or something. As it stands, it pretty much, like, as soon as you put it down here, as soon as you really put any kind of pressure on here, it just kind of collapses under its own weight here. Not a whole bunch to say about the jet mode aside from how enormous it is. It is bigger than your MP Seekers. Unfortunately, I don't have any of them handy to show you. But here's an MP car again. Oh my god. You see how frustrating that landing gear is? Definitely needs to be better. So let's get this guy to his robot mode. We're going to start by flipping all our landing gears on in. Disconnect this thing like this. We'll start with his feet. Bring these panels open like so. Unpeg these, bring them around, and they don't really peg very securely in there, which is a problem for robot mode. Now, these flaps here are not mentioned in the instructions. They're just not there. They were added later after the instructions were made. So you're going to have to pick and do what you want with these pieces here. I'll show you how I like to have them, and I'll kind of show you how the instructions tell these, which are present, how they're supposed to be. But before we do that, we want to kind of disconnect the wings of the airplane from the robot, and hopefully we don't have a problem. I want to point this out here. Really nice glue job, DX9. So I took a quick jump cut there because I didn't want to waste the time really showing you. It was kind of like halfway popping out, but I couldn't get it all the way out. They just put a tiny little glue on the edges here, and it wasn't really enough to secure this. They really should have put it in the actual holes here. And before I send this back to my buddy Robert, I'm going to make sure that that is secure. But there are numerous times where I moved the wings and at least this silver piece is popped off. And there's another silver piece, it's like up here on him, that just kind of, it's just plugged in there. And it's a friction fit, very easy to come off. I've glued them on for Robert. but I encourage you to do that to yours if you pick up this guy so you don't lose any pieces. Anyway, we have this kind of like that. We can finish his feet here. We're going to take these thrusters, fold them all the way around, and then back in position to make like heel spurs. Here we go. There's his feet. We can split his legs here, bring these panels on down, tuck these back in place if they kind of come out, because they do just rotate on that rocker. Now we can take this crotch panel, bring it down, and now we're left with working with these. Now, if these didn't exist, what they want you to do is fold these forward kind of like this. To me, I don't really care for how that looks when you're given these things. So what I like to do, I fold these up just like this. And again, there is no instructions on these purple bits in the instruction manual. They added them after. Now this would be the closest to how the instructions want you to transform it, but I don't like that extra bulk. So what I end up doing is I just leave them straight back, and I think that to me is the most aesthetically pleasing. Your tastes may vary, but that's what I like to see. So that's his legs. We'll go up here to the top of them. We're going to start by unplugging these here. See these silver bits right there? They're just friction fit in, so glue yours in if you have this toy. Otherwise you may find at some point you only have one. So we want these like that. We're going to open these up just like so. And you can see when I did that transformation how I did these wrong, because I had them like this when I closed them, which will kind of work, but a lot of ugly stuff sticks out and you have that big gap. So just be aware that I messed that up. Should have been like this. Anyway, so once we have these, we're also going to put the nose cone down a little, and the head usually does a mostly okay job. Well, let's not worry about the head quite yet. We're going to take these, and with these pieces out of the way, rotate this whole piece out to the side here, just like that. Now get the head out of the way, and be careful with these panels because they can snap the back piece here, but open them up, and now we can kind of feed the head through to open this a little, because that's the easiest way I've found to be able to open this back panel. So your head should feed through, and we've got this going on. So let's do the cockpit here. We're going to separate the nose cone like this, then use the TFC aerial bot trick to collapse this in even further. And now this could have happened in the process of you messing with them. These need to be all the way up on this slider. Bring this around, and then you can push it down, and the bottom of this cockpit should slide into position. And there's the cat. He's unhappy that I'm doing a review for so long, apparently. Anyway, yeah, buddy. Anyway, we're going to take this piece here, fold it on up like so, and flip it around, and then flip the cockpit down. They tell you can leave it the other way if you prefer. I think he looks a little silly with the cockpit on his abdomen there, so that's just how I think he looks best. We're going to take these panels now and fold them over and in place, and they will clip around this cockpit. It's a very odd tensioning, so just be careful, but it just kind of fills him out. So now we're just on to the arms. So what we need to do here, these little panels here that we had filling it in, we need to make sure they're all the way up as far as they'll go in there on both sides here. He is very unhappy with me today, apparently. Take this, bring the gray piece back and around, and this time you want the dark gray piece to be straight and the actual gray piece of this connector to be flat across, and that should let you close that up most of the way at least. It's not perfect because of that little flap in there. So let's do that again. Bring this around. The gray piece fits in there, and we can close that up. Perfect. So now we're gonna bring the bicep the proper direction. Open up his forearm here. You can grab his little thumb and wiggle his hand on out like so. Close this up, and then the thumb plug, or the bottom of the wrist, plugs into it, and we can just kind of clean up his hand here. We'll do that again. Very interesting way they fit the hands in there. I will give them credit for that. So you got this. Now, there's a couple things you can do here. The proper way they tell you to, and it's easy to kind of move that to get this black piece, but get it so it swivels around here, and that gives you the range of motion. And then you bring this here, and that's kind of the closest to Blitzwing you get. So bring that around and bring that like that. That's kind of like your Blitzwing shoulders. I don't particularly like it, but it's the closest you get. We'll come around to the back. Let's just finish this. Take this, fold it all the way up now. It should peg in. These tabs should fold on in like so. The treads should unpeg from the wings and fold in. They want you to fold the wings back and like this, and then bring these little panels down. And if you like the cannon on the back, you certainly can go ahead and do it. And that's Blitzwing in his robot mode here. Now, I do not like the way that looks when you put it like this. And I know that this is contrary to how Blitzwing is supposed to look, but I kind of prefer to make a seeker out of him like this. And I think, personally for me, I like the way that looks better. Your mileage may vary. I like that. It gives, you know, the range of motion, and he doesn't look quite so weird in the shoulders there. He does have these big, obnoxious open spots at the top here, but you could always just kind of fold these panels back in when they're not in use. And I think that looks good. And you know, if I'm going to do anything more than that, then I'll go ahead and flip this open and kind of rotate that around. So if this was my Blitzwing, this is how he would be sitting on my shelf. Just like this. Because that's what I think he looks best with. So a quick size comparison before we start looking at articulation. Here he is next to the MP10 Year of the Horse Optimus. And you can see he is a little bit bigger than your Optimus Prime. And here he is next to the Make Toys Megatron. And I like that. I think Blitzwing really should be like a big bruiser type character. So I have no problems with him being a little bit taller than Megatron. So let's talk his articulation. The head is on a ball joint, but based on the sculpt, you really don't get any up and down, just the side to side. As you saw on the shoulders, with these little gray pieces out of the way. Plenty of range of motion, 90 degrees there, full 360 there, ratcheted, very nice. A swivel on the bicep, a double jointed elbow for plenty of range there, ball jointed hand, the thumb is on this swivel, then a ball joint, and then the end of the thumb is articulated. The fingers here, the hand is at 2 points down here, and then all these fingers are connected, but they at least move together, and then like the trigger finger, that's pretty nice. Coming down to the waist, you do have a ratcheted waist swivel. He only gets about that much motion out of it, but I don't think you need more than that before waist articulation starts looking a little bit ridiculous on a toy. moving the hip skirts out of the way, ratcheted legs, much more forward than you get back. Back they start running into the rear, like hip skirts, so to speak, and yeah, they limit him. Coming down to the knee, it is also double jointed, so you got this awkward knee, which I don't particularly care for, and you have the slightly better knee here, but then once you go too crazy with that, it looks a little weird. I mean, you can get 90 degrees out of that knee. That's pretty crazy. Yeah, so good articulation. Coming down to the leg, you have this on the swivel. Of course, it moves up and down, and then the heel spur is also on its own little like swivel system. So great ability to pose this guy, and overall, I don't find him too terribly complicated to transform. One thing I wanted to clarify: I do prefer the look of this versus the Seeker, but I wish that instead of these things articulating on these pins, I wish they were attached to the arm, so when I move this, like this whole thing kind of moved with it, but it's too disjointed. That's my biggest gripe with these, and that's why I go with the Seeker look. So yeah, this guy's pretty good. I like him. I think I would pick him up for my own collection if it wasn't for the fact that I love the KFC tank mode. I don't know about the jet as much, but I love the tank. And here's with that barrel extended. Whoops. Pegged in there. There's with the barrel extended if you like it. I think it looks better compressed in this particular case. But yeah, I would pick this guy up if KFC and Fans Toys didn't have one coming out. And KFC's tank looks amazing. I love the tank. It looks like a real tank. So I'm really interested to see how that plays out. And I'm a big fan of Fans Toys stuff. So I kind of don't want to make a decision which one is going to be on my shelf until we get all three released and can compare. So this is T2RX6. Again, I apologize for the robot to tank conversion. Very difficult to do, but I hope you found the review informative and enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.